the first name on that list, of course, is Danny Rohl, and he's been linked heavily with lots of different clubs. Actually, as you can see, because I know Luke has been quite skeptical. He was a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Danny Rohl. I think Luke, you just probably don't know much about him, right? You just don't know much about Danny Rohl to form much of a judgment. But so I didn't. Well, I kind of knew, but I wasn't. I didn't know for sure, Nil, that this is actually Danny Rohl's first full like permanent
Yeah,
manager job.
yeah.
Obviously, you can see he came through as an analyst at Leipzig, assistant manager at the under 17s, assistant manager for the first team, assistant manager at Southampton. Who was that with? Was that
Hassan
who was he?
Hüttl says it here.
Hassan Hüttl. Ah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, there we go. Then he was assistant manager under Hansi Flick at Bayern Munich and Germany. And then he took the job at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, there's going to be a lot of context that needs to be given, I think, with some of the slides here, Anil. But I'll start with you, mate. 1.36 points per game there with Sheffield Wednesday. I think that the highest position was wherever they are now, 13th, 12th,
12.
something like that. But he has stabilized a team that was in, not, I wouldn't say free fall, but they were a mess. They were absolute mess on and off the pitch. Their owner right now, as of yesterday, has not paid their players' wages for the second month in a row, or they've been late paying the wages for the second month in a row. For me, Anil, he's done a really good job at Sheffield Wednesday.
Absolutely. This is the one that I'm most excited about because I think he's got the highest ceiling. It says a lot that Ralph Rangnick, sorry, not Ralph Rangnick, Ralph Hasenhüttl, he, as soon as he came in at Southampton, said, we got to get this guy. This guy's so good. He's up and coming. Look at his career there. I think it says a lot about someone that, unlike nepotism, like, let's be honest, Ruud van Nistelrooy, he was allowed to become a coach because he was a great player. This guy had to work his way up from a video analyst, right? To assistant manager. He's worked his way all the way through the youth, all the way to making it up to become a manager. What does that suggest? Suggest someone who's ambitious, suggest someone who's still going places, suggest someone who's climbing the ladder. Look who he's worked under. Hansi Flick. Anyone seen Barcelona this season? Pretty decent.
Yeah.
Anyone remember Bayern Munich when Hansi Flick was the manager? Won the treble. Worked at Red Bull Leipzig. Red Bull have got a really good model where they know how to run a club. Do the people that own Leicester City know how to run the club? PSR breaches and starting on minus point deductions would suggest they don't. So for me, brilliant sort of person to go for. I also think, for me as well, one thing that I think is against the other managers is that I think with the ceiling, you want to see, is there something that they can do that is like unexpected, like defies the odds? That's the Leicester City story. As Jack quite rightly mentioned, when he came under to sign for Sheffield Wednesday, they had no chance whatsoever. They had 0 points when he was in charge, right? They've got an absolute mad lad of a chairman who hasn't paid their players again for the second time, is often having a go at their own fans and players. And yet, despite all that shit show in the background, and that again is something you have at Leicester City the whole time, he managed to galvanize the squad, get them to stay up. I don't know if you remember when he played us, but they were unlucky not to beat us even. Kept them up, and in this season he's also improved them a bit, maybe not as much as he would like to, but he has. And that's mainly because who's he working with? Cast-offs and loan signings. He hasn't really got sort of too many young signings, although I think it's impressive that he's taken Shea Charles from Southampton on loan, a young player, and again turned him into one of the best players in the Championship, again suggesting that he can work with young players. And I think furthermore, and this probably will make Imran happy, is he plays a little bit more, as his name suggests, of a rock and roll football style, right? A bit more vertical transitions. He tends to prefer a sort of 3-3-4 in formation, sort of changes it again when he's sort of flexible managers. He does still like possession and things like that. But what I'm saying is, I think that like a lot of managers are like, they're throttling the game in terms of possession for possession's sake. Whereas I feel like Danny Rohl has got more of that kind of Leipzig crash and bash style, right? They're not afraid sometimes to win the physical duels and do that thing. So I should probably be Danny Rohl's agent because I feel like I've sold them pretty hard here.
And as Anil said, Luke, he's not a nepo. You see the likes of Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, they Ruud van Nistelrooy, Wayne Rooney. They get jobs because of their name, because of what they did in their playing career. But this guy worked from the very bottom, and you can see there the analysis background as well. That's got to be a tick in favour of him as well.
Yeah, so look, Let me be a man and admit to you now that I'm glad I got my stupid take out in the group chat and not here. And I'll be the first to admit that I didn't know enough about him and I should think before I say things, and I'm an idiot. But what I will say is I have done my research since in that meantime, and I'm all in favor of this kind of been waiting to talk about it. The biggest thing to highlight here when you talk about a tick is an video analyst for RB Leipzig. That shows to me that he's pragmatic. He's able to read the game. He may have a style in football, whether it be rock and roll and fast and transition, have been really hard and physical. But the thing is that he's going to look at games like a Neil on steroids, where he's come up on all this stuff, right? And he's going to be able to like set up that suggests to me that he can do his diligence in the Championship, and then he can come to the Premier League, with his style in place, but be willing to change it. Kind of similar to the lad that said Brentford. I keep forgetting his name. I'm sorry, the manager at Brentford. He's got his style, but he's willing to change it. What's his name? Thomas Frank. Thank you, sir. So he, in my opinion, is as you just mentioned before, he's a good-looking lad. He's got a strong jawline. He's got better hair than Russell Martin. I'm warming up with him. I'm in favour of it. But let me just say this, all jokes aside. He, in my opinion, fits the mold. We want someone that's ambitious, as you've just mentioned, Imran, someone that's willing to, hopefully they can roll up the red carpet at the King Power and be like, look, we're going to get dicked. We're going to get a points deduction. We're going to have possible, restrictions and stuff. But he's been used to that already at Sheffield Wednesday. But we've got a good core of youth that you can build around. And hopefully we can build upon that the following season. Now, this is the biggest thing that we wanted to mention right now before we go any further in this stream, before I pass it over. If we go with him, no one likes to hear this, but Leicester City has been used by a stepping stone by players and managers, whether you want to admit it or not. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that we don't have a long-term plan. So we keep having people use this as a stepping stone, and then we get caught with our pants down and our dick in our hands like, shit, now what? Fuck it, let's just hire an orc. Like that just shows that there's no thinking and plan in place. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we've all covered it to death and how stupid it was. But the thing is, like, I would like to have someone that's like, similar ilk, ambitious, someone that wants to progress their career forward, not someone that's just been sacked and just waiting around for a job and hope that someone calls them up, which is most likely what we're going to do, which worries me. So if we're going to go ahead and let's say we're able to pursue him and get him, let's have 1 to 2 backup options in the background or people in mind on the short list, so that if he should get poached by another club, if he were to go back up, we've got someone that can fit straight in seamlessly.
Luke mentioned their stepping stone, but the way I look at it, although I do get very bitter when managers and players leave us, I do. Like I had Enzo Maresca on Fraud Watch the other night, so I'm a bit bitter about him leaving. But there is a food chain in football, Jack, and we're not at the top of it. And if he gets poached by a big club, it means that he's brought success to Leicester. It means that he's won a lot of games, because you don't just get, he gets us promoted. And I would say as well, by the way, that the Enzo Maresca, it's very rare that you get promoted and your manager gets taken by Chelsea. That's extremely rare. And I don't think any of us expected Chelsea to sign Enzo Maresca, but they did. So I do think, Jack, that if he did take us up, he would stay. He would stay and try and keep us up there. And if he did and he gets poached by a bigger club, then that, I mean, in my eyes, mate, that means he's been successful at Leicester.
Yeah, this is where you look at him. He's a pragmatic manager. He's a good-looking chap, and he's got a bloody better beard than I have. So, yeah. Do you know what? I think he plays with 2 plans. He's got plan A, which is very much dynamic, can play attacking football. Then he's got possession-based football, which not many people like, let's be honest. But he can change games when he needs to. I think with Leicester, I think it'd give him that chance to develop a lot more as a manager. He'd have a lot more probably to spend, even though some of the managers ain't even been backed here, like Ruud van Nistelrooy. But the thing is, he'll bring something different, a lot more character, a lot more charisma to this team. He's got a lot more youth players to work with, like Fatawu, Ben Nelson's, Will Alves, them types of players, Will Golding's. So I think it's an exciting challenge for him. I think if he goes to the Premier League, he'll know what he wants and how to get there. I think he's, like you say, he's a passionate manager with a vision. And this is what you want as a manager. You don't want someone who just talks the talk. You want someone to also go and walk the walk. And I think this is the type of guy you're looking for. And I think this guy can back it up. I'm very impressed with him. I think I've watched Sheffield Wednesday under him. I think he brings a different dynamic to the game. And I think he'd be good for us. I think, obviously, the target is to get us back to the Premier League. And I think when he does, I think he'll be good. Like you say, you're doing well in football when the big teams come calling. Look at Enzo, went to Chelsea, so it's not too bad after all. He goes and wins a European Cup, doesn't he, on his first season? So, yeah, let's hope it's a long-term vision. I know all this football gets talked about, long-term plan, this, that and the other, but the board have got to stick to their word. There's no lying through their teeth this time. They've got to either back him or don't bother at all.